Sketchbook tour. So I'm going to be looking at a collection of my sketchbooks and kind of like sketch pads that are from around 2018 to now. 2018 is when I started taking drawing a little bit more seriously. Not every sketchbook is full. I have a thing where I buy a new sketchbook even though I'm halfway through a sketchbook and it doesn't get finished. But we're in for a long one today. Let's get into it and let me know if you're rocking with this. Okay, so starting with my first ever sketchbook. This was during 2018. I was on Instagram. I used to do digital drawings a little bit here and there, like illustrations at uni. Then I saw a thing called Inktober in 2018 and then decided to take part, and that's when my love for traditional drawing started. So this first page is my first proper drawing. I didn't want to draw this straight away on the piece of paper, so I drew it on the iPad first, got the sketch how I wanted it to look like, and then I traced it underneath here because I was so scared of making mistakes, which is so crazy to me now because I love traditional drawing and I find it harder to draw on the iPad. Obviously drew as a kid, but I don't have any sketchbooks from when I was a kid. I would just draw randomly like Sonic characters and Mario characters and stuff. So yeah, that was the first one. I think the prompt for this in Inktober 2018 was poisonous, so I did a Black Widow drawing with a sword, and you'll notice I do a lot of swords as well. The next one was Tranquil. Drew two fish swimming. You can't really see that very well because what you see on the next page actually. Okay, there's going to be some crazy looking stuff in here. This is the first time I've looked through these, but this is a, I used to really like drawing mech. I think I was trying to learn perspective a lot, and this helped with perspective because it's a lot of squares, you know, rectangles and angular shapes. I'm not sure what this is. I think this is just a random sketch while I was at home. I really like these markers. I think they're called like pro markers. I used to love using them for like different, there's obviously like different shades of grey, and I would just practice shading with them. Okay, so these are like heavy pen works. You'll see like a light drawing underneath. Really liked mech stuff and like techie sci-fi things, which is completely different to what I do now. I feel like I've got more of a fantasy soft colour pencil drawing style, but I mean, my dragons are a lot better now. This is probably like one of the first proper dragons I did traditionally. I think it looks okay, it looks a bit goofy. I think I was watching Attack on Titan at the time. Yeah, this one was just done with a black pen, two different types of black pen, like a fine liner for some of these like line shadings, and then like a thicker marker for some of these like block cell shadings, and then an orange. This is probably a Posca paint pen. I use these a lot still. They're really great. They sit over dark shading like this quite well. They're quite bright. It's essentially just paint. So this is my first full page spread, but yes, same again with like the black, really thick pens. This one I really liked at the time. Definitely ruined it with these smoky eyes. You can see I love drawing animals at the time. I feel like I have a lot of inspiration from nature. I did kind of treat every piece as a finished piece. And then I discovered some thinner markers. I think this is really good actually. Like, this is one of my best drawings from like back in the day. I had the thicker markers before that were like thicker in like nib length, but these ones I found were like a collection of different shades of grey. They were like thinner, so decided to experiment with these. And you can notice a common theme through when I started drawing is like these tubes and this sci-fi. Taking animals but adding mech wear to them. I don't actually know where that came from. I wasn't watching anything or consuming any like mech media back then. This is all just like from my head, I think. Or maybe I was and I just can't remember, but I do like this. I think the shading's really good, and yeah, I think my use of light and understanding light was quite prominent from the start, so I was really pleased with that at the time. Kept on working these pens. This is probably like one of my favourite old dragon drawings. I really like the shapes. I think I've kept some of this like blocky angles so far in my work today, and yeah, I just like how like 3D it looks. I think I tried quite hard on this. You can see there's like different shades of the grey there. Yeah, just working on light and like the characters I like drawing really. Obviously it needs to move down here because that's not in the right place, but we're all on a journey, you know. Then I did this one. This is still Inktober, so I got to day 14. I think I missed a few days. This is a pretty good grind out of me. I would come back from work every day and just try and draw in the evening just to try and get better. And I know these are like full pieces, but to me it was worth it doing like a full piece and then learning from your mistakes. Another drawing of an animal with some tech wear. I'm not too sure where these tubes are going. I really focus on the details from like the beginning. I feel like there's like a lot of detail in this tube full of liquid. This shadow is doing something random. Not sure what that is. And then we have another one. The perspective of that is actually really good, I think. Bearing in mind I have only been taking drawing seriously at this point for about like 6 months. I'd obviously been drawing a lot on the iPad and in uni. Yeah, this was the first proper time where I was like taking a pencil to paper. To be honest, I think that's pretty good. I would draw that nowadays. I think the shading's really good. I think the mech suit is really cool. I'm not gonna lie, guys, this I might have cooked back then, you know. I might have actually just got worse. This was a little bit more illustrative. Tried out a lot of different techniques with the it's more like scribbly, just to try and get the texture of the fur, or the feathers, as it were. I actually redrew this, I think, digitally, taking a lot of inspiration from like modern tech looking things and maybe like old masks, and then like applying it to an animal. This day was called Muzzle. I'm pretty sure as well I just made up these prompts. Take too much notice in like what the actual prompts were, because to be honest I would just be stuck about an idea and then I'd be like, well, I'm just gonna make my own up anyways. The point is to draw every day. Just using a lot of these fine line markers, not really sketching, because obviously it was Inktober. At this point I was probably wanting to do final pieces for Instagram, trying to make my Instagram pop off, you know how it is. And then I started experimenting with these like old like Borderland style buildings. This one actually like popped off on Instagram. I think this got like 15,000 likes, which is to me at the time so crazy, because once I'd finished it I didn't really think much of it. Like, it's really sketchy, it's almost like concept art, it's really quick, but then I guess people like that. It's meant to be like a comic panel of like two perspectives of seeing this like red sun. It was actually originally covering up this piece, this character looking out, but as you can see I'm not very good at drawing people, and I was probably scared too, so I thought, oh well, I'm alright at drawing animals, so I'll just keep drawing animals. This is another, this is day 24. I'm definitely skipped a few days. I think I just jumped on in the end. Didn't really like this one as much. You can see the proportions are a bit messed up. Not really sure how he's balancing on this log. The head is all messed up. The idea though, the idea is there. Part of the learning curve, you know. This is what a sketchbook is for. A lot of my sketchbooks will have finished pieces, and I don't want people to be deterred to feel like, oh, a sketchbook's meant to be just sketches and stuff. But I love the paper feel of sketchbooks, and I love having a book that has like a collection of my art pieces in it. Then I started experimenting with colour after Inktober ended, because I realised, well, I don't have to just do it in grayscale now. Not really experimenting too much. I mean, adding just accent colours to a couple of the pieces of this. Again, focusing on mech. And then we're back to grayscale again with a crab. I think I probably at this point was trying to capture more mech stuff, because maybe it was working on Instagram and people were noticing it, so I decided to just keep doing it. And then I really liked the stark contrast between like adding like a pop of red like against the grayscale, although it does look quite flat here, like using some darker markers with like some faded out plants in the background gives it a little bit of depth. These were some tiger study sketches. This was just using like an ink pen. I think Pentel do like a pure ink pen with like a brush on the end. Landscape study, but because of the back of the ink running through the back, it's really hard to tell what it is, but there's like a castle here. And then I did this piece, experimenting with like a lot of block colors again, like we saw in the previous one. Not really sure what they're meant to be doing for the image, but I think I probably did them to kind of make it feel like it was taking over the whole page. It was like a bit more perspective going on. Head studies and arms. I mean, this is like pretty awful. This was like some plants in my room that I did a study for, just experiencing with the pen. I think it was actually good, me experimenting with fine line pen at the start, because it just built my confidence up way more than it should have, like than sketching. So I do eventually go back to sketching, but it was nice to just trust my gut and know that like all the marks that I'm making on a paper are going to be final. Then here we go, I started leaning back into these like rustic Borderlands style buildings. I really like this though. I really like how I've decided to add like a shadowy, it looks like really hazy because of the tone of the pen, but these are really fun to do. They're really messy, but I feel like they made sense. You've got like a little garage down here for a flying car or something. Oh, this is one of my favorite pages in the books. You can see where my kind of style has like started from here. With animals, I always like taking like a normal animal and just adding like a little bit of flair to it, like these little antennas. Starting to see where my style is coming through, and like using different shapes for the feathers, like spiky or circular. Yeah, I think this is a good step. This one's pretty cute. I like this. Again, using the markers. I think a lot of this book is just using these markers and fine line pens and ink. Yeah, really like it. Really like what I'm doing with the perspective on here and like the shadowy foreground and background. Okay, this is quite a nice page. See what I mean by like the pops of red? I think this really works well with the grayscale. It jumps out of the page quite nicely. It's very like Japanese inspired actually. Again, using this shadowy foreground, background stuff. Not really sure what I was trying to build here, whether it was like a world I was trying to build, but I think it looks pretty cool. Oh, this was a little fan art from Love, Death and Robots. I think it's pretty cute. Cat could do with some work. I like the illustrativeness of this with the markers. Like, I'm not gonna lie, I feel like I was pretty good at shading to begin with, and I'm glad I'm kind of looking through this and realizing like I'm not as bad as I think I was. And I started experimenting with some more birds. Not as good, I think. I think I could have gone a bit crazier with the shading and added a bit more to the background. Just looks kind of like plopped in at the corners there. Just a wolf that has unfortunately passed away, but nature has reclaimed them. Yeah, pretty self-explanatory, that one. Oh, this is when I try to add a dragon into the scene of some of my like buildings that I've been doing throughout the sketchbook. Didn't really work, I'm not gonna lie. It's almost there. The head is pretty awful. The mouth looks a bit weird. It needs to be thick around here. Kind of works though. There's some in there. The idea is there, and honestly, that's kind of what this sketchbook was for. Just getting my ideas down. Starting to use a pencil more as a boat. This is not entirely sure what that says. Probably says like chicken or something. Again, these tubes and this mech stuff. Maybe it's like barnacles. I was big into barnacles when I was a kid, so maybe it's something to do with that deep in my inner childhood. I got a piece upside down. Quite cool. I was experimenting with leaving negative space on the page and seeing if I could, you know, not put any details on this sword, but make it feel like the sword is going through the mouth there. Some more buildings. Playing with perspective a lot better here actually. Some sort of boat. Some wise old man experimenting with fabric all of a sudden. And then same again. I quite like the tube here. We're changing up the tubes here. We're making them a little bit more 3D. We're making them have like 2 edges to them. Just a random little shot. I can't even remember the sort of mindset I was in when I was drawing these, so I kind of have to take them for face value and see the progression as it goes. This is when I bought some different coloured fine liner pens. Experimented with using them all in one page. I've got like a mech hand, a mech robot, and a gun, a sniper. Oh, and then this is Ripperoo from Crash Bandicoot, one of my favourite characters from my favourite video game ever. I think I used to draw him a lot when I was a kid, so I thought, why not draw him now? The structure's there, it's quite nice. I'm using a lot of angles with my, like, I do still like using a lot of angles with like softer edges. These legs are pretty good. It's not bad, you know, not bad for the first time, but just the blue's kind of ruining it. It washes it out a bit too much. That's the first sketchbook. Okay, so next up we have a sketch pad that I've been working on. This is when I first bought colour pencils. Yeah, I know it's not technically a sketchbook. To me, these are like great little books to have. This was a drawing where I was trying to introduce pen and graphite together to see how it worked. Ultimately, didn't like it, hated it straight away. And then I think the next day I bought some colour pencils, which is this drawing. You'll see that I don't apply much pressure to the page, so a lot of these colours are quite muted. I think they look a little bit brighter because of the whiteness of this. This is on toned tan paper. And then my first time drawing a person, I used to use a red pen, a red pencil to sketch with before. I used to think that was quite nice if I was using colour pencils, because it would keep some of that colour in there without having to like rub out any of the grey stuff. This is where I really started to just like lean into just using red and blue. Early stages worked quite well, but I need to get the actual drawing right first. Some of the perspective and technicalities of the drawing just all over the place, but experimenting with cool and light colours, red and blue, seeing if they contrast nicely together for shadows and highlights. I think this was, what is this? I think they were the evolutions, so Flareon, Vaporeon and Jolteon, but as Mew. There was a website, I think it still exists, that you can mash 2 types of Pokemon together to see what they'll look like. It was a trend at the time, and then that's what I did. Someone said these look like Alvin and the Chipmunks, and to be honest, I have to agree, they look so funny. This is where I started to add a lot more pressure to the colour pencils. You'll see the colours actually like drawing out the page a little bit more. Again with the white Posca paint pen, used to love using that, still do. Same again with this. You'll notice a pattern. I love drawing wolves. To me, these are obviously finished pieces, but I think back in the day and looking at them now, they are just like sketches and me trying to understand colour pencils. Experimenting with like a lot of framing as well, just to try and like add a bit more to the composition. I would use framing as like a get out of jail card for actually like framing the composition properly. Yeah, another person. I'm not really too sure like what the idea was. Maybe trying to tell a story here, but like the story's not coming through. The story's not storying. Wow, adding a third colour now. I actually really like this. I think the shading on the fish is really nice with the white. This is what I mean by using this sort of paper and why I used it for so long. Like the white just really pops on it. Dragon's okay. I feel like I've gone through like so many different phases of like how I draw dragons. God, and this is where my love for tigers started. I mean, technically these are not good. A lot more saturation coming through the page now. I'm like pressing a lot harder, you'll see, in certain areas to try and bring the colour out. Again, with birds, I feel like the main thing I draw and have been drawing for a while is like birds, fish, tiger, and some type of like four-legged mammal, like a wolf or a dog or something, or a dragon. I wanted it to feel like abstract. Obviously there's a bird coming through the head. Same with this piece as well. Colours actually work quite nicely together. I'm starting to, at this point, understand a bit of colour theory. Pokemon drawings, using a sword in the middle of the piece and then putting stuff around it. Just liked drawing in this way, and drawing in like an angular shading kind of form. Again, framing, probably didn't need to do that, could have just framed the picture using the composition and the things inside the composition, but you live and you learn. And then a Digimon drawing. I think the perspective is really nice. This is really cute. I think it's really cute. This one does look muddy, even in here. Like I feel like if I pressed harder maybe, the white would have popped off a little bit better, but very illustrative, very 2D, very red and blue. You're noticing a pattern here, guys. It's very red and blue. Until we did this piece. I bought a gold pencil, colour pencil, and I thought this is going to be great. But obviously gold and this tone of the paper are basically the same, so it just looks washed out and it just looks like the same colour. You can't really see it. I think maybe in different light, I mean, there's like a little bit of a shimmer to it, but yeah, do not buy the Faber-Castell gold pencils, guys. They don't work, don't make sense, and they're really muddy, and they have like a different texture to them. Don't recommend. I'll flip through these quickly, but it's essentially the same thing. A bunch of red and blue drawings using the Posca white paint pen. I was so bad at drawing people, but hey, I gave it a shot, okay, because I was like, I can't just draw animals for the rest of my life. And now I realise, actually, I can just draw animals for the rest of my life because it's my art, you know? I can do what I want with my art. This is when I started getting a little bit better with shading as well. Like, you'll notice, like, it is definitely becoming more muddier now, though, because I'm using a lot of the blue over the red, which is kind of like muting both of the colours together. I'll flip through these quickly without much commentary. These are kind of self-explanatory until I need to explain. See what I mean by the muddiness? Unfortunately, I messed up the horn. Like, the horn should be here and like pointing down here. Kind of looks a bit phallic and weird. So then I had the great idea of making some bugs that look like they're encased in some sort of amber. I think this one's better. I really like this like cellular shading. Just make it pop, you know. I think that actually looks quite cool. Started drawing people more, getting a lot better with like head shape. I like this. I do like the concept and the highlights on the turtleneck. I think that works quite well. And yeah, just always feel like my work exists in some sort of like fantasy world, like it's almost like realistic, but it's not. This one I really liked because I took the idea of making these kind of like amber stones. With this one I wanted to make it feel like it was glowing in the middle, and I think I did a pretty good job of that. The light is in the right place, I feel like, on this one. I think this was like a big experiment with just using like these three colours. Okay, this I would say marks the start of when I started introducing different colours to the palette, and is probably responsible for a lot of my pieces nowadays where they have like blues, greens, yellows, and it's like a little bit more mature and confident. And then we start to come away from using red and blues and experimenting with some more colours. I think normally I would take a reference from Pinterest and then try and spin it in a way that's my own, so adding more stuff to it that feels like it's in my own world, and for some reason having an obsession with keys and swords. I wanted to make Turtwig's Final Evolution from Pokemon, but I wanted to do a realistic version. Hadn't really used any of these colours before, so for using these colours for the first time, you can see I'm maturing in shading and light composition. Same with this piece. Obviously this motif makes a lot of sense, this cleaver because it's chopped up, and you'll see that I'm starting to not just colour in one colour, but I'm like putting random colours everywhere. Kind of makes a bit of sense. I think it does. I think as long as there's different pops of colours, but the shadows and the highlights still make sense to where they're supposed to be. Like there's a big area of highlights here, big area of shadows here. I feel like you can express a little bit and add a couple extra flourishes of colour, and also it makes sense because it's a octopus and they change colour anyway. So this little guy, shading's really maturing here. I really like it. Again, with the frames, I could have just dropped these frames and made the composition have more going on around it. Pretty classic idea for anyone drawing, or the kind of stuff I was into. I was really experimenting with sharp angular edges on the skull. I think all of this area looks really nice. Gets a bit flat here. His head just looks flat here, which is a bit random, but I probably took what I learned here to the next drawings. This is what I mean. They seem like finished pieces, but every time I would finish a piece like this or draw something like this in a sketch pad, I would learn so much from it and take it to the next one. Again, with wolves or some type of mammal with a mask on. Someone actually said this looks like a banana skin, and I can't not see that. But I was really trying to experiment with making this like gold material and see if I could make it like really shiny and like dented, like it'd been hammered. Oh, this was a draw in your style. I think it looks great. I loved the contrast between the gold and like the brown muted palette. I like that I even understood to add the yellow pits into here, because if it was reflecting, then the gold would be reflected into the bubbles on the way up. This is where we started to really cook with drawing people. Yeah, this is like a bit of the old stuff, using like squares and digital kind of sci-fi looking aesthetics, modern realistic. It's just surrealism. I'm just trying to say surrealism there. Same with this. This isn't actually me, but I feel like this is represents me. Like all I'm thinking about is plants. I'm pretty sure this isn't with pencil. This is with just like lighter greys, just a subtle touch of highlights. I think it really pops out on this grey. Here we have a little throwback of joining the first sketchbook style that I was going with the inking, what I'd learnt now. Kind of saying goodbye to my old style. Another portrait, a bit more realistic this time. Another skull. This is where my love for skulls really started. So I watched The King with Timothée Chalamet in it, and then I drew this right after it. I feel like the way I'm using and rendering colour pencils is really starting to shine here in the skull specifically. And this is only one colour, and I thought, well, if I can do this with one colour, then I'm going to be unstoppable. I think skulls are a great way to practice like rendering, just because of like the surface texture that they are. Like everyone knows they're quite smooth, and I feel like colour pencils, when they're like drawn like this on smooth paper, it lends itself really well. Okay, before I get into like the proper colour pencil sketchbooks that I've done, these are from 2019. This is when I took Inktober really seriously in this sketch pad, but I'm just going to flick through these quickly. There won't be much commentary. I'll just let you take a look at them. This is one of my favourite dragon drawings actually from back in the day. I think it's really clean. Like this piece, for instance, I feel like these are not worlds apart in terms of the way I like structure my lines. I'm starting to understand how to draw tigers a little bit better. You'll notice a lot that I'm just bringing in a few older ideas that I had in the first sketchbook when I first started drawing properly into the next year, which was 2019, and yeah, just cooking a little bit better. See what I mean by this one from the first sketchbook? Inspiration. Me for real. We actually completed this year in 2019. This is the only time I've ever completed Inktober, and I never wanted to do it again. Although I do have some ones when I tried to do it the next year, and I didn't complete it, but I'll quickly flick through them so you can see them. so moving on to my first Moleskine sketchbook. Discovered that these sketchbooks are my favourite. Just love the paper quality. This is another sketchbook that is fully complete. Okay, so, oh, this was actually in 2019, late 2019 when I had this book, because this is from the 10th of October. I think I was on holiday and this was a sketch of a landscape. I always thought, why don't I just take a sketchbook on holiday to draw, and then realised I was awful at drawing on holiday. So these are some studies. I think I was trying to do some personal branding here for my art. Landed on the dragon kind of symbol that you can see now. Trying to do some head studies, understand perspective. Not really understanding anything here though. This book would be used for just like a lot of ideas, so I would draw thumbnails out. Again, with like the thumbnail ideas. This was going to be in watercolour apparently, hand dripping in gold. Yeah, I really liked using a red pencil to sketch a lot of my initial ideas down. Okay, so we've got some tiger studies here in pencil. That jaw and that mouth is doing some crazy shit. I really like doing the eyes just white, and I still do that now in some pieces actually. I just like having soulless eyes, I think. Using colour pencils again, but mixing it with, this time with graphite. Seeing if the two can coexist together. Really started to like this orange colour actually again. I think this book is quite edgy, so you're going to see some like angsty teen stuff. I think I had a heartbreak around this time, so it probably makes a lot of sense. Some hand studies here. That just looks a bit odd. Just kind of writing down my thoughts. So I went on a 2-hour walk and couldn't find anywhere to draw. So this is a tree outside my parents' house. So I think I sat and drew it out in the back garden. This is also at my parents' house. That was like a view that I saw sitting in the back of the garden. Wanted to draw it with colour pencils. That was the other side of the view. On the that was the right side and this was the left side. As always, I want to take inspiration from like real things that exist, but then add like an element of fantasy to them. So that was kind of that, doing this. And at the time I was experimenting doing landscapes. As you can see, some more landscape drawings using colour pencils, trying to limit the colour palette I'm using, make it feel a bit ethereal. I really like this one actually. This is quite nice. Same again. This one doesn't really work as well. I think I grabbed this image off Pinterest. It was from like a cave looking out to a mountain. I think you can get the idea of what I'm trying to do here. Very rough, feels very impressionistic. Trying to understand how I could draw in certain directions using singular strokes to create kind of depth and form. This was actually using pastels, as I bought some Sennelier pastels. These are like really expensive. I was really into just buying art supplies at the time and probably should have bought a cheaper brand. You know, that's why they're still in the box and I've barely used them. But yeah, that was like a road in my village that I lived in at the time at my parents' house. Yeah, it's still fresh. This is a tiger study. I think I found the image again on Pinterest or the internet. Again, more thumbnails in red pencil. I think I was looking at making like bookmarks and stuff. Yeah, so this was the actual final piece that I planned out for my girlfriend for when we were in COVID, and it was based on the book The Goldfinch by Donna Tartt. I think it's actually really cute, and we've got this hung up, the original drawing hung up in the house at the moment. Again, more rough thumbnails. I did a bigger piece like this with colour pencils, fantasy woman with a headdress. Inktober prompt list, and then trying to draw out some thumbnails for Inktober, because I don't know about you, but if you've ever done Inktober, I like to plan out before I do all the drawings. It was incredibly hard for me to kind of come up with the ideas on the spot on the day, so I'd like to have a plan before and like get a rough sketch just so I was prepared. If you have a full-time job, how are you supposed to draw an ink drawing every day? I don't know, unless you're a professional. But another thumbnail for a larger piece that I did. I think this was an image from a friend. Again, more thumbnails. This will actually appear soon, like so. I actually still really like this piece. I think shadows could be a little bit better on this side, but I like how elegant and dainty it feels. I think it stands up to most of my work today. More thumbnails, just experimenting with different like little elements that I want to put into a picture. That is a finished piece of, again, using the graphite versus colour pencil. I'm a graphic designer, so there will be some typography stuff in here, and this is like custom type that I was playing around with. Oh, this was a cool piece. I randomly drew this, I think, on a train. I drew the sketch and then coloured it in when I got home. Playing with perspective there. Bringing in some old building styles like I used to do. I think I was trying to be a bit more expressive and less realistic with my pieces. See what I mean by being a bit edgy. The tranquil fields bring me closer. Good stuff, Lewis. Same again, graphic design. This is actually a logo for a company. Some YouTubers. thumbnail sketch for drawing I did for my mum's birthday, mother and son. Oh, some pen drawing. This was the first pen drawing I did in a little bit. Again, adding some gold in there. Yeah, just like a wolf study there as well. This was a light sketch for a digital drawing that I did. I'll try and flash it up on the screen if I can find it. Favourite games of all time. Cat and person study with a bird study and a jellyfish. I mean, these, I wouldn't really class these as studies. These are just like light drawings, I think, when I was bored. That is a raccoon, so don't get any ideas. That is a raccoon, so no funny business. I might have to blur that out. I don't know if YouTube will actually let me show that. During COVID, I did some live drawing classes on Zoom with my girlfriend, and we sat in the living room and drew out some bits, and they brought in some live animals for you to draw. So these are those studies. Pretty cute armadillo. Just trying in different mediums. I actually really like this. I feel like the shading's quite nice. Again, the same before. Little badger. Imagine these ones, you had a really limited time, maybe like 2 minutes to draw these. I think that tortoise's name was called Sully. Oh, we've got a page stuck together here. This was my first time painting with acrylic. I'd never painted with acrylic before. Obviously when I was a kid I'd had, but properly wanted to try it. More thumbnail drawings. That was a thumbnail drawing for a bird drawing of a blue tit. That was actually for my granddad. So a lot of my ideas would come out from the sketchbook and then make it onto like a full page. Some more logo ideas for my graphic design. Oh, this is where I went a bit crazy. It's like a full page spread of using different elements. I've got like a receipt here, tracing paper, using pen. So I would like draw underneath and then stick tracing paper and then draw something over the top of it. Just to experiment with different layerings and different mediums, see kind of if there's a place for me to use any of these kind of materials or mediums later on in my work. A bit of an abstract scene, just a random barbed wire, but again, bringing some colours in again from my first sketchbook and older ideas, seeing if I can do them anew. This is a study page that I did. I've never really studied anatomy, and kind of, if I'm being honest, probably shouldn't admit that, but I just don't see myself drawing humans that much, and I don't really like drawing like bodies or humans or whatever. I really like drawing animals, and I think I'll just forever like doing that. But I do think this turned out really nice. I hadn't used graphite too much at this point, so this was me trying to get used to that medium, and to be honest I think this turned out really cool. Like, that's quite a good study. The same with his hand. I rarely drew hands, but turned out alright. And then yeah, I obviously like drawing colour pencil animals. That was an idea that never came to fruition of, yeah, a thumbnail drawing, a crane, 2 dragons in some sort of like plinth. Never happened though. So a lot of these ideas that are on here probably never happened. So, but I don't know, I just like having a place to dump a lot of my ideas visually. Oh, this is what I mean by the edgy stuff, guys. Look, a cold soft breeze brings us closer to the place we sought after the most. Isn't he cute? Isn't he cute? I wanted to experiment with, I think me and my girlfriend sat in a like a church garden, and it was a really sunny day, but I wanted to see if I could draw all in blue. A Rayquaza sketch that I actually did, this made it out of the sketchbook. Some more thumbnail drawings, very loose work of like how I was going to do a tiger, drawing in like a bigger piece and like how it would be positioned, and that was the final thumbnail sketch for that tiger piece wandering through. I think I'd been to Kew Gardens at the time, and I really liked, they have like an old greenhouse Victorian palace kind of looking thing. Really wanted to draw that. Didn't end up making it out of the sketchbook, mind you, but yeah, this just gives me a better sense of like what I'm going to do compositionally, and sometimes I would like take this, trace it onto like printer paper, then scan it in. This is when I went to a place called Stowe Gardens, add in some tracing paper over the top. Yeah, just kind of experimenting with really rough pencil marks and then really smooth pencil marks. Like this is when I bought these things. I can't remember what they're called, but they're for smoothing out graphite, and I really loved them at the time, and they helped out massively. So another full page spread. I think I kept seeing like a lot of Pinterest full page spreads and wanted to try them out for myself and just add like random different elements and assets into one composition. Again, more thumbnail sketches. Thumbnail sketch for a bigger piece. And yeah, that's the end of that book. Okay, now for some bonus content. So I have a couple of sketchbooks that are not filled in the slightest, they just have a couple of pages filled, but I would love to show you the artwork in them. This sketchbook is specifically from Strathmore, but this is a sketch pad or sketchbook with toned tan paper inside of it that I did plan on using for a lot of smaller colour pencil drawings. I have a landscape drawing of a place in Stowe. I think I mentioned that in the last sketchbook. Too much contrast going on up here compared to everywhere else. Need some darker shadows around here. And then I did the boys, Squirtle, Blastoise and Wartortle. I tried to do it in like my kind of style. They look a bit goofy. And yeah, this is like an Attack on Titan referenced fan art. I only used one colour for the smoke and just let the paper shine through. There's the mid-tone, guys. And shout out Blastoise. That's my son, don't shout at him. So yeah, I think these two look quite nice on a double page spread. These are just like more concrete colour pencil drawings. And then I did another skull. So wanted to experiment with negative space and not colouring in this part. All the light source is coming from this as well, as you'll see, pretty cool. And then I wanted to do a realistic tiger drawing because I saw a Pinterest image of a golden tiger and I was like, did not know these existed. Need to draw one. Also, this was like the first time experiment with like gradient. Yeah, I actually really like this looking back at this. Another one that's really muddy and washed out, not used very nice blues on there. Don't really think the colours work well. Same with this one. Colours on both of these pages not working that well on each other. And that's that for that one. And then the other bonus sketchbook is my huge A3 sketchbook, Moleskine sketchbook, A3 size. It's gigantic. For that, I decided to do an Instagram series where I would draw a portrait. I really liked how a lot of these turned out. I did this page first. Yeah, you can see I experimented with different colours, just using one colour here and like really limiting the palette. I think that one's really nice. I really like this one as well. I was being quite expressive in terms of feels like fire, you know, like the blue part of the flame is the hottest. But yeah, this is where I really started to understand portraiture, and then I thought I'd take it one step further, stick a bunch of different paper materials inside the sketchbook to create these ones. That's the bonus content. Let's go on to the final sketchbook. So here we have my final Moleskine sketchbook that I'm currently still using. I've been using this for about 2 years. I can't finish a sketchbook to save my life anymore. This has my most recent pieces in. More thumbnails again. I haven't done this piece yet. It's actually a future piece of 2 dragons chasing a star, which I'm sure I'll do at some point, and there will be a long form video on it. Starting strong with more experimentation, a bit of study on fabric up here with pencil. Loving keys again. Loving using tracing paper to see if I could draw in like a different style with pen using the tracing paper here, adding pops of red again. Tigers, they feel quite rushed, but these are kind of just studies at this point and using different shapes. This was where I first started doing portraiture like quite seriously. This was before I did my big sketchbook idea, so these were like the first proper ones I did, and that's that guy. There will be random pages that I've filled up recently with like newer drawings like this, just because I'm trying to fill the whole thing up and have like a complete sketchbook. This is an old piece I was going to do. I saw a statue and I wanted to do a study of it, but then just had the idea to randomly draw a skull over his head, because at this point I was quite good at freehanding skulls because I draw them so much, so tried to flex that skill a little bit. Blocked out his pee-pee. This was an old graphite drawing of me. This is like a self-portrait. Not really sure the meaning, but I wanted to use red and black again like I used to. I think at this point I was like reminiscing about a lot of my old works. I've probably seen the YouTube video on this one. This was an experiment again using colour pencils and graphite together. See if they contrast nicely, and I think it actually really works here. It's similar to these drawings where you're revealing the skeleton, and people seem to like this. This is the beginning of where you start seeing me using different patterns and like visual assets and motifs and stuff. Using a lot more colours than just red and blue, thrown in some greens, some yellows, and I think they all work in a nice harmony. This was a sketch actually related to that first one with the skull in that garden place, and yeah, I was sat on the hill and there was this nice like old Roman structure. Decided to add like a giant Titan skull over it. And then this was just a statue study in the garden as well. Some more thumbnails that never made it out of the sketchbook, I'm not gonna lie. I think maybe this one did. These are gonna be like graphite pieces, have like a bit of more of a serious subject, maybe tell a bit of a story. I don't think I'm like very good at doing art that tells a story. I just like drawing pretty animals and pretty things. Want to invest too much time in these because I kind of had the idea and then moved on from them pretty quickly. So if I move on from them pretty quickly, I know that I'm most likely just not that interested in drawing it, so I don't really want to sit and do it because I'll just get bored, and I only draw because I find it fun, and if there's no fun in it, then I don't really know why I would sit there for hours and do it. This was, again, I just liked using skulls and seeing the difference between graphite. Like at this point, both of my mediums were colour, pencil and graphite, and I was trying to simultaneously get better at them both. I think it's a cool double page spread. I know it's like a final piece, and people say in sketchbooks you're not allowed final pieces in there. Like I said before, I like having a book that I can flick through that shows kind of where my head was at the time, and some final pieces, some thumbnails, sketches, studies, whatever. It's got everything. It's got like a bit of me in every page, you know, and it wouldn't be a bit of me without a final piece. So these were some studies with just like a fine liner, just using very limited amount of lines to draw some flowers. Reminds me of blue china and porcelain. Some more studies, just putting random bits of tape in my sketchbook to make it look cooler than it actually is. And then yeah, some more graphite studies, just being a little bit more illustrative. And I think this was quite inspired by one of my favourite artists. Their Instagram handle is Feral Kid, and yeah, I have one of their prints in my house, and yeah, they do like graphite stuff with this, with like pops of red. I think that's probably where my main inspirations come from, is that person. This was an idea that I was supposed to do, but once I looked back at it, I didn't like it, but thought I'd leave it in the sketchbook anyway, just in case. The idea later on kind of came into fruition in a different way, so not too sure what that is. Maybe had a dream and then that was my sleep paralysis demon. This was actually a portrait of my girlfriend. I wanted to draw her in, again, a fantasy setting, as if she was some sort of queen or warrior, which she is. And yeah, that's my best way of representing people I love. You've probably seen these. These are my my postcard drawings. These are the original drawings from the postcards, which I did. Funny little quotes with them. Please be nice to the bunny, the angel bunny, and then mum said you can come over. I feel like this is like the peak of my colour pencil ability at the moment, with like how I use the colours. I don't think ability in terms of like composition and subject matter, but in terms of like rendering and using colour pencils, I think this is the peak. You can see a lot of different colours involved in there, but I think they all make sense, and no colour kind of looks out of place. Yeah, so this is Alan Rickman portrait, obviously in his character Snape. This was another postcard drawing, the original drawing. I like all the colours I've been using, they look very rainbow-like. I did a little TikTok ages ago. I got my boots, I got my hat, I'm bringing country back. So that was that one, and just some silly little demons. Getting loose with the pencil. This is more of like a study, just again being loose with my styles, seeing if I can mix being loose and abstract with it having like a serious undertone, and like it's a bit surreal. And then obviously this is a nice little portrait of a dog. This is like the current style I'm working towards nowadays, very cartoonish and illustrative. There's just a lot of like lovely sharp shapes involved. Some more portraits, not sure why they're dotted out everywhere, I think just for space reasons. One colour, graphite, seeing what works well. And then this is my sticker page. I actually have another video on this as well if you want to view that, guys. This is actually the peak of my colour pencil ability in terms of colour. I love how all the colours mesh together on here and just make sense, like random little pops of green and yellow, but like the main base is like pinkish and blue. And these stickers were great. Well, I think they it was a bit of a learning curve making my first stickers. Oh, this is another portrait I experimented with, both again using colour pencils and graphite. I wanted to do just like a partial amount of the portrait, like really realistic as I could get it. Yeah, just make the rest of it feel like a skull, but like really outlined and abstract. This is a place I went on holiday, realised actually I don't really like doing landscapes in colour pencils. I find them really difficult, but I think there's just too many colours going on here. I feel like if this was like a one colour palette in all green, this might have looked quite cool. This is a piece that I hadn't finished. It was kind of a study, seeing if I could make a tiger look like a fairy at the same time, and then just some random sketches of eyes. This was another sticker design. This is one of my like favourite dragon head drawings. I love how angular it is, and the different shapes created by a lot of the shadow and the highlights. Feels very jagged and rock-like. This was one of my full-on graphite pieces that I did. This was like a big study for me, studying doing like bark and woods. I don't think I did the fur very well, or the feathers, but I do like the contrast. This does feel like wood to me. More portraits. You can see I've like gone over that too many times and tried to rub it out. Too much colour pencil and try and rub it out later. It's next to impossible. Some more portraits, trying to add a little bit of blue and yellow in that one as well. Again, using colour pencils and graphite to see if they contrast well. The shimmer in the graphite, it doesn't make a cool effect actually. It kind of looks like it's like underneath a different page. Tiger drawing again, this is like more of my style recently that I've been trying out, making it a little bit more angular and very shape heavy. This was an old portrait that I did, and then I ended up going over it and putting a skull. I didn't like the portrait. Yeah, just going over with pen and blue, adding a rib cage to him, keeping it all very loose and yeah, not tidy. Oh, this is one of my favourite drawings in the sketchbook. Kind of going through the lands of despair, but being guided by some ghostly fish. This was a good project in my sketchbook to do, to learn how to make things really dark and then make things glow at the same time. It informed a lot of like later graphite drawings. More portraits, pen this time, using like biro pen. These small portrait drawings were just practice, and then I could do them quite quickly, post on Instagram, gain a bit of a following, you know, appease the algorithm gods by posting a lot because they were so small. I did this quite recently. Please shut the fuck up, I'm overstimulated. Just love all the shapes and like structure of the anatomy I'm kind of expressing here, and just going wild with how the animal looks. This was the first time using gouache, or I can't say gouache, that type of watercolor paint that's a bit thicker. First time using it, really hard to use. I'm really rubbish at paints, but something I really want to do in the future as well is like add paint to my process. So probably be using this sketchbook to paint in more. This was a trip in 2022, so I've had this sketchbook for a long time and not finished it. I think I'd rather be doing like bigger pieces outside of the sketchbook, and then I don't really take this anywhere with me. I should really, but I'm just not that sort of artist, and I don't know if I want to force myself to be that. I know there's like an idea of what an artist is and looks like, and someone who takes a sketchbook around with them all the time, but the time I do it, this is I think I went to like a natural history museum, yeah, drew a couple bits and like a statue and trying out different mediums on the day. This is just a random idea I had one night, and then sat on the sofa and drew it in here. I wanted the shapes to feel flowy, wanted it to feel abstract but realistic at the same time. Practice some of my shading with like the scarring on the face. No idea what that says thank you, but thanks for watching, guys. If you've enjoyed the video, make sure you subscribe, like, comment. Still got a bit of the sketchbook to go, but yeah, thank you very much. Some portraits in pen, tried to make them really wiry and brushy. Don't think these worked very well, and but we tried, laughed my arse off, and can't do the lines thin enough to build up form. I don't think that was the problem. I think I just had to build up form by doing the lines in certain directions, kind of what I did here, like carrying the lines around. I think it kind of works here, but the proportions are all over the place, and experiment nonetheless. So I tied a pen to a leaf on a tree and then held my sketchbook up and let it sketch like a random line. So these random scribbles are from the tree, and then I would draw over them kind of what I saw. This was like an idea that I was going to do, basically a thumbnail, but like a bigger thumbnail, more rough idea of, it was kind of like a life study. This was going to be me with my sketchbook on the floor and my skull, 3D skull. I think it made it out of the sketchbook. I did like about 10% of the drawing and then gave up on it. This was the start of the new year in 2024, I think, or 2023. More skulls, wanted to really draw a rabbit, had this cool idea, wanted to see how it looked in my sketchbook. And this is one of my, actually, you know, I said my favourite one was the tiger one, but I have a few favourites in here. This is probably where colour pencil style really started from, and I just feel like there's an explosion of controlled colour here, and it works so well. And I completely freehanded this tiger, by the way, like I didn't use a reference, and I had an idea on a whim. I just went to my sketchbook and just jotted it down, and then thought, right, I'm just going to colour this whole thing in because I think it's like perfect. Made a bunch of my first ever prints. People seem to really like it, and yeah, I think it's great. Some more fish studies, using a gradient kind of effect with the blue and green. I did a reel of this drawing, which is crazy, like it's such a small drawing. It got over 1 million views, which I just don't understand. But and then we had the opposite. I wanted to do a tiger and then opposite of the tiger, the dragon. So I sold those as 2 prints. I actually prefer the tiger. I think I thought about this too much. I think I didn't let my my creative instinct flow as well on this one. Yeah, some sort of like bunny rabbit holding some flowers. Just really letting like my brain flow and dump random ideas into this sketchbook, really. This was a random eagle study that I did that didn't kind of like in the end. This is a Goya study in colour pencils of one of his paintings. I wanted to see if it would translate well. I think it does. I just think the proportion and like the size of it is all off. But yeah, definitely a fun little afternoon activity in the sketchbook, this one. Some more portraits. This is actually a video I did on how to create portraits like this in colour pencil using kind of only like one colour. This is one of my favourite graphite pieces. This is an homage to Elden Ring. I don't know how to explain this one, but it just felt, I randomly sketched it in my bed once and I was like, yeah, this is gonna cook. I really like this. This was also a YouTube video. You can view this one. This is how to colour pencil like this using different colours. Tone tan paper and then white paper to show you the difference of, like, you can add white highlights and then let the highlights kind of work on the paper here. And yeah, some more thumbnail sketches. This was for a bookmark that I was going to make. I didn't like it in the end, but I did end up making the whole thing. That was actually the original. I did make a bookmark out of this and had it gold foiled. A tiger lion on his back as well. I actually might come back to that soon because I quite like that composition, but just more thumbnail sketches really. I wanted this to look like fine china, like porcelain. That was a recent thumbnail for a recent drawing. I drew this duck when I went to the Cotswolds. I made friends with a duck and wanted to draw her, and then this is where I started adding framing from my previous like 2019 drawings, but like in a different way, in a more fun way. I feel like this feels very folklore, old-timey. I quite like it. I think it matches well with the colour pencils. This is where I started to figure out if I can draw a original dragon character, so that's me just trying to flesh that out. Another eagle drawing that I didn't really like, a little study. You've probably seen this drawing on my channel. Again, most of these drawings are from longer videos that I've done, just aquatic animals. I think these are all really bright and saturated and lovely, and it's just, again, just developing my style a little bit more, what I want to be doing kind of the rest of this year and next year. See my style going really, and like where I fit into the art world or the world in general. And then you might have seen this piece, an eagle to represent my favourite team winning the FA Cup. Some more sketches on trying to develop my style. I tried out this eye thing. I think it works well with graphite, but then I tried it with colour pencil and I don't think it translates as well. So I decided to switch up the eyes in that one, and you'll see in a later video. Actually, I just lost all the footage for it, but I'm going to try and make a video about it anyway. So yeah, there's some more sketches, and that is it. So that's going to do it, guys. Thanks so much for tuning in today, taking a peek into my little world and my sketchbooks. If you enjoyed the video or you enjoy videos like this about my art, then make sure you subscribe, drop a like on the video, it really helps, and say hello in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. Okay, I love you. See you later. Bye.